Goshen Theater Drama Club members and other folks. Welcome to Goshen Theater Drama Club's weekly table talk. Today we are covering in episode 5. We're running out of space on the hand. We're going to have to go to another hand next week. Today, for episode 5, we are talking about what you should do when things go wrong, the actor's nightmare, things going terribly awry, and what you can do as a performer to keep on keeping on. Today, we have our regular panelists and our special guest panelists. We have Paul Rigano with us today, live from New York City in the Goshen Theater Drama Club headquarters East. And in Goshen Theater Drama Club headquarters North, Miss Katie.
Hi, friends.
The Goshen Theater Drama Club headquarters Goshen branch, Miss Molly.
Hello.
The flagship.
The flagship branch. And from the Elkhart County office, it's me, Miss Amber. So for those of you who are tuning in for the first time, we're going to give a little short introduction of who we are, what we do, and then we're going to dive right into your questions for today. You guys had some great questions on last week's episode, so we're going to answer those first top thing right after we introduce ourselves. Like I said, I'm Miss Amber. I'm the managing director at Goshen Theater, the producing director at the Goshen Theater Drama Club, and I've been a performer, artist, musician, actor, mover, person for most of my life, and I have been doing arts administration and theater production for the last 8 years. So I love being here. We love doing the table talks. Take it away, Miss Katie.
Hello, friends. I'm an actress based out of Chicago right now. I'm originally from Missouri. I have a BFA in musical theater from Missouri State University down in Springfield, Missouri. And I am the camp director for the first year of camps here at Goshen Theater Drama Club. So hello, friends.
Thank
Molly?
you, Miss Katie. Miss Molly.
Hello. I am Miss Molly. I was raised here in Goshen, but in December I graduated with my BFA in musical theater performance from Western Michigan University up in Kalamazoo. Go Broncos. So I'm an actor, singer, dancer. I'm an intern here at the Goshen Theater, and I'm the choreographer for the Goshen Theater Summer Drama Club this summer. Woo!
It's a mouthful. And live from New York, it's Friday afternoon.
When is it? Where am I? Doesn't exist in quarantine. I'm Paul Rigano. I'm a musician, a composer, and theater maker in general, a sometime performer. I work in New York. My latest gig was on the Broadway revival of West Side Story. My next gig is the Broadway revival of The Music Man. I've worked regionally and done a whole bunch of fun musical stuff. Anything musical theater, I'm there, including at the Round Barn Theater with the very talented Katie Barnes and Amber Burgess. I have not yet music directed Molly, but I'm sure it's coming.
Yay! I hope so.
Give it time. So today, on the topic of the actor's nightmare, which we're very excited to get started with, we also had some questions on last week's episode, which was what to have in your performer's toolkit. Katie, what was our first question this week?
First question from our audience is, do you always carry audition stuff with you, like all the time? So the answer is no, but also kind of yes. So I don't carry my audition binder around me to the store. I don't carry songs with me or my headshot with me, but I always have things that are in my brain that are ready to go if someone were to ask for them randomly. So monologues are stored up here. If they want to hear a song a cappella, I've got it ready to go. I also have business cards. That's key. So if you're in the professional world, to have business cards, if someone wants to hear you audition, give them your business card and have them set up something for you, because you shouldn't be singing in the middle of a grocery store. So the answer is no, I don't carry everything with me all the time. Molly, do you carry everything with you?
No, I think if I'm going to an audition, I'll take extra headshots and resumes than I usually need, just in case there's other people there who want one or they ask for more. But like on a day-to-day basis, I would say no.
What I really,
Paul?
Amber.
No.
No.
Sorry.
Amber, you go.
I really like the idea of business cards, but I'm not opposed to the idea of a kid having a business card. Like something with their email address or a way to contact their mom, like, hi, I'm Amber. Call my mom Lynn to hear me sing awesome songs. And like,
Except you should put it as your agent, like your mom is your agent or your
agent mom.
manager.
Exactly.
Your manager.
Exactly.
I've heard momager.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Feel free
you're
to
on
use
the
it.
pulse, Paul Rigano.
You know, I know what the kids are talking about, and I do not carry everything with me, especially since for me that would include hauling my keyboard wherever I go. Probably. Yeah, I agree that it's good if you are going to Pearl Studios, have your book with you, have your headshots, because you don't know who you're going to run into. You don't know if you might see an audition with an open slot or whatever. But yeah.
Kids, Pearl Studios is a place in the fancy New York City land where they have a lot of like rehearsals. There's big rooms and stuff that are available for people to rent, and like professional theater companies, folks from all over the country, like rehearsal, people who need a space for rehearsal, who just have a small apartment and don't own a big theater in New York. They all rent that place, different rooms in it, so that they can have all of these events. So if you're going to somewhere like Pearl Studio, it's a really good idea to have stuff with you because you never know what you're going to find.
Or who you're going to find. Whenever I go to Pearl Studios, I say it's like going back to my old high school because I always run into someone from my past there. I know it's always an adventure. So yeah, don't take your audition book to the dentist, but do take it to Pearl Studios.
And there's other studios in New York, like Chelsea, is that they're still up and running. And then there's some places in Chicago too, Miss Katie, like if you were going to the Equity Building, and we've talked about union stuff, but the Equity Building has an audition and rehearsal space in it in Chicago, which is amazing. You can visit your union rep and also audition for a show.
Right.
It's perfect. And in Goshen, nope. But, you know, there's space to rent at the Goshen Theater if you did want to have your own auditions or rehearsals or do your own performances. So if you ever do want to do something special like that, call Miss Amber. She'll help set you up. Make your own opportunities. I think too, the other thing is maybe if you know that you are an auditioning kind of kid, have some of that stuff in your mom's car, or if you are old enough to have a car. Like I had a sort of audition crate when I was living in Chicago and had a car, which was like, that only lasted 6 months because it was so expensive. But I had like an audition crate that had headshots and like a water bottle and a bunch of other like stuff, so that if I did have an audition, tap shoes, just in case, I could just grab stuff out of the car, because you never know. Molly, you had a question.
Yes, our next question is, what do you guys take with you to play practice? This is a really good question because we talked a lot about what we take to auditions, but not like rehearsal once you're in a show. I would say to make sure you have all of the material you could possibly need for that specific show. So the libretto, the script, and the music. Even if it's a day that it's listed, maybe we're just doing music rehearsal today, I would still bring your script and other things, because sometimes if there's extra time, they're going to want to work on everything that they can. So the same goes with attire. If it's not a dance rehearsal day, I would still bring dance clothes just in case, because you never know what you might need. That goes with dance shoes too. Sort of have everything you could possibly need. I definitely always bring a snack and a water bottle too. Yeah. That's usually what's in my rehearsal bag. What about you guys?
Pencils.
Oh, yes. How could I forget?
A ton of pencils.
Yeah.
And erasers.
Oh yeah. When I am running music rehearsals, my my spiel on the first day is the things that I say I like for my people to have is obviously, yes, the material. And even if you don't read music, have that sheet music in front of you, because honestly, sitting there and listening to it while you're looking at it is going to build that unconsciously, that skill. Something to mark up the score with, whether that be pencils or if you are allowed highlighters. If you have rented the materials, most rental companies do not let you make permanent marks in the books. That's why you use a pencil. At the end, you erase it. Always erase your books. Nothing more
intense.
frustrating. Yeah, nothing more frustrating than getting a book with someone else's, oh, Mark sings here. I don't know Mark. I don't care about what you did in your production. But
Wow.
I digress.
You struck a nerve.
And a bottle of water, as has been said. Stay hydrated. And something to record the music rehearsal with. A lot of people like to record their parts and then listen back at home. That's very helpful.
I like that.
Yep. All the things that are said, kiddos on your end, like your script is huge. Your water bottle is huge. You need to be wearing comfortable clothes to move in at all times possible. And proper shoes, no open-toed shoes, right? If you're to the level of having character shoes or jazz shoes, great. If not, you need to be in tennis shoes for your rehearsals, is what I always tell my kiddos. But yeah, we usually provide snacks for our kids, so I don't usually tell them they need to bring one unless they have an allergy issue, in which case bring your own snack.
That's smart. Smart. Yeah, I think comfy shoes, pencils, 3-hole punch I've brought before just in case. And then parents, a good thing to send your children with or students with to rehearsal is a family folder. Something that if there is communication for parents, your children can put that information in that folder if they do it. And then you know for sure that there's stuff for you. There's so much of that communication that still happens on paper. Particularly for drama programs. I know that we do a lot of correspondence and things by email, obviously, but sometimes there will be things on paper like forms or permission slips or order forms, things that will need to get to you for the communication between you and the administrators. A good program will have somebody set up as your liaison who will be the person that you contact that will let you know something is coming and that you need a signature on it, but putting that folder in your kid's audition bag is always good. I also will parents put a Sharpie in the kit somewhere so that you can write on your children's shoes. The thing about theater footwear is that it all looks the same. Everybody kind of has the same version of the same thing. And our students tend to throw their shoes off and leave them somewhere. And there's nothing worse than figuring out that you have 2 pairs of shoes that are identical from 2 different children that are 2 different sizes, and it's impossible to tell whose are whose. So a Sharpie. The other thing I'll do with that is stickers. So if your child has a particular character that they like, for example, Harry Potter, putting a Harry Potter sticker on the shoe, on the bottom or on the inside, and then writing your child's name on the sticker is a really easy shorthand, because then your kid can say, someone will say, oh, we found a pair of taupe character shoes. Whose are they? Your kid can say, do they have a Harry Potter sticker? Like, it's a really easy way for your child to identify their stuff. And then you can be like sort of consistent across the brand there as well. Pointers.
And then your kid can say also, what is taupe?
Oh, that's true. What is taupe?
Does that mean beige?
Oh,
Yes.
I didn't learn what taupe was until I was about 22 years old. So it's always been a grown-up thing to me.
taupe. Isn't it in Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat? Isn't that one of the colors?
One of those shows that everyone does that I have never done, so I wouldn't know.
Let's check. Red, yellow, green and brown, scarlet and black, ochre, peach, ruby and olive, violet and fawn, lilac, gold, chocolate, mauve, cream, crimson, silver, rose, azure, lemon, russet, gray, opal, white, pink, orange, and blue. No taupe.
That was impressive.
I was just about to say.
Yeah. I learned that show as a child, so that's stuck permanently in there. After we cut today, I will prove that the things you learn in childhood are things that stay. Maybe we'll record it as a special feature, but I still remember the very first musical theater song that I ever learned at the age of 7 for a show called Gustav the Gourmet Giant.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, you have
That's
no
okay.
idea. That's for subscribers only. We'll put up a video of that. Oh, Paul, you got a question from a grown-up, and I really love this question. Hit us with it.
Yeah. What things that actors do bother you when you are playing the piano for auditions? That is its own episode, for one. But yeah, the first thing, and this is something that's so hard to break as a habit, don't snap at me, don't clap at me. You can tell me your tempo. First of all, your tempo should be indicated on your music. If you put it down and you go, so it's quarter note equals 120, boom, I know what you mean. What that refers to is the beats per minute, BPM, 120. So that means basically 2 beats per second. It's about, and here I go snapping, but that's around 120. It's it's the tempo of Stars and Stripes Forever. Ba, 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 da, ba, 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 ba. That's an easy way to remember it. But if your tempo isn't indicated, then you can put it down and say, so I'm starting here and the tempo is about 76 trombones led that. Sing it to me. Sing 2 bars and I'll know exactly where you are. Also, if I know the song, I'm probably going to know the tempo-ish. But if you take it at a different speed, let me know. I mentioned sheet protectors last week. You're never going to make anybody happy. So do what works for you. Do not. This is something that I've actually gotten a screenshot from the preview page from musicnotes.com. So it's just like the first page. Don't give me that. I mean, like, if it's a song I know, I can probably fake it from that first page, but I'm not going to be your friend. You want to set me up to set you up to succeed, right? Also, people have brought in just lyric sheets, which do me no good. I need music. I need dots. Personally, since I began as a jazz musician, if you bring me a sheet that has just lyrics and chords, I can kind of follow you if you give me the feel, but don't count on that from your piano player. Bring in clean sheet music that is well copied. It's not cut off at the top or at the bottom. Just generally treat me like a nice person and not like your servant. We're partners. I'm going to help you if you're nice to me. I mean, I'll help you, do my best to help you no matter what, but I'll be more inclined to help you if you're nice to me. Respect. RESPECT, that's number 1, and your piano player will be in your corner.
Paul, I have a question.
Yeah.
You said no snapping or clapping, preferred singing your start to your music. How do you feel about like tapping your leg for the beat?
Yeah, that's fine. There's something about like the snapping or the clapping that's like in my face that feels kind of condescending.
Right.
Tapping
right.
Foot, yeah, that's okay. Or if you know how to conduct, you can conduct a couple, right? 76 trombones at the big parade. Yeah.
I have friends who hated it when people hit the piano.
Yeah,
bonk for the tempo, because they said, like, if you were playing a violin and I wanted you to play at a different speed, I wouldn't start hitting your violin.
Yeah, they're right about that. Don't hit the piano.
Sometimes if I have like a groove in a song I'm doing, I'll sort of like pat my leg. Billy Ray was a preacher's son, and when I dance and then was the camera long.
Yeah, if you're
Just to let him know.
If you're bringing in anything with this like jazz, pop, funk, any kind of that, or even country, like give me a little dance, like let me feel the groove.
Feel.
Sometimes the way you move will tell me like, okay, this song has a strong backbeat or something like that.
Right.
Don't like choreograph a dance for the pianist. But give me the feel. Feel is almost more important than tempo. Jason Robert Brown says that.
Oh.
He says feel and groove are just as important and sometimes more important than tempo, and he's right.
Yeah.
And as a piano player, for any kids who are taking piano lessons now and wondering what you can do to really become strong, well-rounded musicians, that's something to think about. What's the feel? What's the groove? Is it bossa nova or is it more Chopin or whatever?
And exposing yourself to what those musical styles are is really important. One of my favorite things to do when I was younger was listen to covers of songs that I already knew in different styles so that I could hear what the difference between like one style and another style was. Musical theater is really good for that because a lot of people will cover musical theater songs later on. Like there's a show tune from The Music Man, since we're on The Music Man today, Till There Was You, that was recorded by the Beatles.
I was going to bring that up.
Right. Or there's one from, is it 42nd Street? It's, what is that song? It's
Lullaby.
Oh no, it's maybe it's not 42nd Street. But it's oh my gosh, I'll think of it later. Mid episode, I'll be like, ba-bing! I'll remember.
You know the last time. Does anyone here know the last time that a musical theater song was
Oh.
number one on the pop charts?
Oh, I feel like I want to
Hamilton.
do this.
Was it Hamilton?
I don't think so.
No, I don't think the
let's-
Hamilton
let's for-
mixtape made it.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean maybe it did, but I don't know if I would count mixtape. Well, maybe I would because the other one counts. The last one, if Hamilton did it, it would be the last one. But before that, it was 1964-5, Louis Armstrong's cover of "Hello, Dolly."
Ah,
A
that
song
makes
that he
sense.
did not know when he walked into the studio that day.
Well, you know, nobody knew that we would be getting trivia also in the
Sorry.
episode today. No,
You're welcome.
speaking of, Art House across the street from Goshen Theater had a musical movie trivia night, and guess who won?
No
I
way.
know. It's great. I was very excited. I'm still excited. I'm bragging about it on our table talk. So that was the answering the listener questions for the week. You guys have great questions. We love getting them. We love getting them from the grown-ups, from the students, everybody. So if you have a question, send it to me in an email, send it as a comment on our Facebook, send it as a comment or message on Facebook, send it here through YouTube. You can comment on the video. And you don't have to be a subscriber or anything to make those comments. And we will answer your question in next week's episode. So today's episode, we are covering the topic, what to do when things go wrong. This is the thing that we get questions about most often. And it's also the thing that is the biggest barrier to some of you performing, even though you want to perform in public. A lot of our students have said that they really love musical theater. They love singing along or dancing along at home, but making that step from doing something you love at home to doing something you love with other folks and really creating that team, it's something that you're interested in, but you're scared of because you're afraid things are going to go weird sometimes. So today, we're accepting the fact that sometimes things go weird, and we're going to give you some strategies to, what to do, what to think, how to feel, what to do when things go wrong. And we'll also probably, I'm assuming, we're probably going to tell you some of our crazy stories of things that have gone wrong when we were on stage, because things have gone wrong. It happens. So what are we starting with? Oh, we're starting with like a little discussion about auditions. I think Miss Katie has our first topic. Take it away, Miss Katie.
I do. So we're going to start with what to do if you lose your place in a cold reading and an audition. So some tricks to help you along the way. It's usually a printout of what they're having you read that they give you. If you were smart, you brought your pencil like we told you to in episode 1. They may give you time off stage, like go out in the hall, take a minute, read it, and then come back in and give your audition. If they do, take your time with your pencil, mark next to your character's lines so that you can easily find where you are. Also, take your time. Read it over a couple times, even if you're still in the room. They give it to you, you're on stage, they're waiting for you to start. It's your audition, you control when you start. Don't let them pressure you into starting too soon. If you need a second to look over it, which you should, take a second to look over it. And then when you're actually giving your cold read, when someone else is reading, so you'll have someone else reading another character most likely, when they are reading, you're watching them. You're connecting with them. When it's your time, take a breath, connect the words, deliver the line. Less likely to lose your spot because you're taking your time, less likely to get nervous if you take your time. Any other thoughts, Molly?
I just think this is such a good question. I just feel like behind the table, they're not, like, they know once you have it memorized, you'll be able to completely recite everything. So I really think it's okay if you, like, need a second. I would rather watch someone look down, get the words, and then actually connect with their scene partner that they're reading with than just, like, read it really quickly because it feels like it needs to go faster. So I agree with Miss Katie, just taking as much time as you need to. And if you do mess up, they're not going to be like, they messed up this word, so they're not getting the role. Like, that's not what they're looking for. They're looking for your choices that you make as that character. So just don't let it get in your head if you miss a couple of words.
Paul?
Ditto to all that. Yeah. We know that it's your first time looking at it, or that you've had very little time to prepare, especially if you're working with another auditioner. Sometimes you're reading with someone who's called, this is an industry term, but we call them a reader, who is behind the table, who works for the theater company, and they will be reading the lines and you're acting with them. But they know that you are reading it for the first time. So it is absolutely not disqualifying if you lose your place. We want to cast human beings, not robots. So to err is human. I have literally seen in auditions people go, I've lost my place, so just give me a second in the scene, keeping it, feel free to, not for death of a salesman maybe, but feel free to use that and tap into it, and don't be afraid to acknowledge it, because nobody's going to think less of you for losing your place.
Yeah, I think for me, when I watch a young actor or actors specifically, something I'm really impressed with is if they don't drop the attitude of still being in the scene, even if they lose their spot. And acknowledging it is fine. If someone says, I have lost my place, but still stays connected and in the scene and takes a look still through the eyes of the character, what I don't want to see as a director, and it's okay if it happens, but what I don't want to see is someone get mad at themselves, to disengage with their scene partner, to say words that are derogatory, negative self-talk, and that drop of posture. It's fine. It's sometimes a natural response, but if that happens, get right back into it. Theater is not a space where we are exercising bad, negative things. We're trying to have a positive experience. And sometimes people can get critical of themselves, or especially when you think you've messed up. But so often I have been so impressed by how someone responds to messing up that I wanted to work with them more than if they hadn't messed up and they were just perfect all the time. So keep that in mind too. You might have just unlocked the door to actually impressing somebody because you had a great attitude about messing up. One thing that I do as a professional strategy as I'm going along, because my brain works on 7 levels all at the same time. I'm sure everybody's is like that, particularly in an audition. When I'm reading along, I will engage with my scene partner who's going, and then I'll read my line, and then I know where my next line is. I'll take up my thumb and put it on my next line, and I will check to see what the last few words of that other person's line are, so that I can make eye contact with them up to the very last second. And then I know I just go to my thumb and read right down. So if I know what the last few words are, I'm good. That means I can engage and fully engage and don't have to worry about, okay, they stopped. Is it my turn now? Because you don't know the scene yet. So use that as a little bit of a strategy too. And taking a little glance at your script while you're still engaged with that scene partner is awesome. That's great. If it's reassuring and it keeps you calm and keeps you focused on that person and still focused on the scene, that's great. Our brains are really amazing. We have involuntary things happening. We have all of this ability to think and process while we're actually doing an activity. So use that to your advantage. Don't let that run wild in some way. Really stay focused on yourself and feeling calm and positive, and then focus on that scene partner and how you can lift them up. Those would be, and use your thumb. Yay.
I love that. All good. All good. Fake it till you make it is my biggest thing. Keep going.
Yeah. Just like Carol Burnett, pretend to be the thing that you want to be.
Last week or the week before, Amber, you said something about if a casting director asked you, do you play such and such an instrument? And you can say, well, no, but I play this that's close to it. And then, my response to, do you play this instrument, is usually yes. And then as soon as I hang up, I go, now I have to learn that instrument. So as far as the fake it till you make it, expression goes, yes, I support that 1,000%.
Don't lie.
Lying is bad.
If you can't follow through, do not lie.
Right. I would never, if someone was like, do you play the oboe? That is not. But if someone said, the accordion, which is very close to the piano, and I have dabbled with casually, I would say yes.
Someone asked in a phone call if I play the sackbut once.
My
What is
favorite.
that?
It's an ancient instrument. Like nobody plays it. Nobody.
I mean,
There's a few people.
it's
A
a
few
drum.
nerds. But yeah, I was like, I'm sure I could learn the sackbut if humans have played it before.
Yeah.
That's not that. You said it was a drum?
I don't know what it is.
It's a trombone.
Oh.
Trombone.
A rudimentary trombone. So yeah, you could pick it up very quickly because, sorry, brass players, the trombone is not a particularly complex instrument. There, I said it.
I didn't know we were throwing
We getting
shade.
controversial.
It is shady in here.
We're gonna get some hate letters now, Paul. Thanks.
From the Trombonist Association of America, dear Mr. Rigano.
I did not say it was easy to play. It is just not complex in its construction and its. Well, next week's episode is all about the trombone.
76 trombones, a tribute to musical theater's greatest instrument. Oh my goodness. Miss Molly, dance tips in a dance call. What if you lose your spot? What if you don't know what you're doing? What do you think?
Yes, so I lose my steps in dance calls literally all the time. I think every dance call I've done, I've messed up at least one time. It's incredibly normal, and everyone does it. So don't worry if it happens to you, or if you think, oh, I'm not good enough because I mess up in dance calls a lot. That's okay. In a dance call, you will be lucky if you have more than 30 minutes for them to teach it to you, because they have to teach it to you, and then they have to watch everyone do it, sometimes 2 times each, and they'll maybe put you in groups of 4. So they're just trying to get it done. And what they're looking for is, sometimes they are looking for who can pick up steps quickly, but a lot of times they're just looking for, what's your general skill level of dance, and can you sell the song? Like, can I watch you do this and you understand like where this particular character or what this song means in the show? And do you look like you're having fun doing it, or do you look like you're in pain while you do it? So yeah, even if you can't get all the steps, just look like you are having the best time ever. That's the best advice that I can give. Some like practical tips, I would say, for me, if it's something that's complex, I try and focus on either what my feet are doing or what my hands are doing. If I know that there's no way I can get both of them coordinated at the same time within like that 20-minute span of me learning the dance really quickly, and I try and get one of them right, and then I do that part really big, so that's what they look at and they don't really notice the other part. I would also say something I've sort of tricked my brain to do in a dance call is, once I get to the part where they're like calling my number to do the dance, I always try and keep my mind like one step ahead of what my body is doing, just because it's really easy. Then all of a sudden you're performing in front of people, there's a lot going on and you're nervous. So if I'm logically thinking about, okay, I know I'm doing this pirouette right now and the next thing I have is a kick, I'm thinking about the kick while I'm turning. So it's something you sort of have to train yourself to do, but that helps me a lot. And my final tip would be just learn or do as many like quick study dances as you can. Little plug, I've been doing dance classes on the Goshen Theater Facebook page. They're about 20 to 30 minutes long, which is usually how much time you have in a dance call. So just start doing those and start getting your body used to learning dances really quickly, and it really will help you start to pick up dances quicker. But don't worry if you mess up. That's not what they're looking for. And I do it all the time. And sometimes I completely fall down, and it's okay.
I think too, as like someone from the other side of the table, I like it when people smile. I have a good friend who went to New York and did a bunch of like auditions straight out the gate, didn't really know anything, had completed 2 years of college and just went to see like what he could do. And he went to a few dance calls and he made it to a 3rd callback for what is that show? Chorus Line, with no dance training. Because he did it from here up. So like he would basically like hit the mark and do the stuff and was like, and made it to a 3rd callback. And they were pulling people up individually and they said, we need everybody to show us in tap shoes, a double pirouette and a pullback. And he was like, oh, okay. So I'm going to go because he couldn't do it. So, but he made it just from here up. Like they weren't even looking at his feet. They just kept calling him back. So
once again, I'll stick to my famous phrase that my camp kiddos all know is fake it till you make it. Exactly what Molly and Amber are saying. Sell your face, sell your arms. If you are not a comfortable dancer, at least be a comfortable mover. Work enough to be a comfortable mover on your dance skills. The other thing is just like, if they're offering a warm-up before the dance call, so like at Up Does, which is a big unified audition for professional theater, if they are offering a warm-up session before the theaters actually come in to see you audition, you go to the warm-up. Be early, be in the front, because they are already looking at you during warm-up. There are theater people who come in and watch those warm-ups because all they need to know is if you can move. They want to see the technical abilities that you have, and then they will build upon them. They know that you're going to struggle with the dance call because it's fast and it's a lot, but they know what they're looking for, and they will find it if you try. Like, do your best, fake it till you make it.
I think that the takeaway from this section, and like most of what we have been saying in general, is can be best summed up by Mr. Oscar Hammerstein, and that is, the result of this deception is very clear to tell. For when I fool the people I fear, I fool myself as well.
I love that.
Oh yeah, the king and I, baby. Oh, Amber's getting misty. Yeah, I the way I always put it is always land pretty. People remember beginnings and endings better than anything else. So start with a lot of enthusiasm and land pretty. However, whatever you did in the leap in midair, as long as you land pretty, people will remember that it was a pretty leap. Just like that. That's what most of my dancing looks like. I have very little to add to this because
here's one quick one too. One time at the United Professional Theater Association auditions that Miss Katie was just talking about, I was sitting as a theater company watching, and there is an advanced ballet call at that. So there's different levels of dance calls, and they'll tell you like, hey, if you're just wanting to be a mover, or if you're doing jazz or tap or ballet or whatever, they'll tell you like what those calls are, and very few people did the advanced ballet combination. So few people had done it that none of us really knew what it was on the auditioner side of things. And in one call, there were two girls that did the advanced ballet call, and they started the music, and both of them started and did two completely different combinations. Nobody knew which one was right and which one was wrong. Both of them were very good dancers. None of us knew. I'm sure they got just a ton of callbacks, both of them, because they were both very, very accomplished ballet dancers. One of them was likely doing the proper dance combination, and the other clearly was not, but nobody knew which one it was. So at a certain point, selling it and just doing something that looks good is great. Just keep going and keep smiling.
I have like one last thing to add, because I thought of it while everyone was sharing their brilliance. But while you're learning the dance call, they're often already watching you. So make sure you're being very professional. And this is not the time to like be shy and let other people stand in front of you. Like, I always zoom to the front of the pack, even if I know the dance is going to be really hard for me, because I'm super short. And if I can't see it, then I can't learn it. So I'm just push through the crowd, and I'm like, hello, and I stand right in front, and I smile the whole time that I'm learning it. And when people are asking questions, I listen, and if I have a question, I ask it, and I don't talk in between them teaching, because they're already watching how professional you are and how professional you will be in a rehearsal situation. And then at UpDoes, the dance call this year, everything was fine until the tap. This is just a story, but actor's nightmare, so I thought I'd tell it. And like, 100 people in their tap shoes. It's just like not that big of a room. And I feel like in tap calls, the entire time people are tapping, even if they're not learning the dance. And it's so frustrating. So everyone was tapping. I couldn't get to the front. I couldn't even see what the dance was supposed to be. It was going so fast. And I literally, I was like towards the back and they were like, all right, switch lines. And I knew there was no possible way I could learn this and make it look good by the time it was time to do it. So I just left. I literally walked out the back doors, and that's okay too. If you know that there's something that you're like, I can't do this, and if I try to do this, it will be a bad representation of myself in an audition. It's okay. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Exactly.
What's great about UPTA is that they do let you choose. So you can go learn all the dances when they're teaching them, and then you go tell a moderator which ones you actually want to be seen for. And you can go practice them out in the hall until they start calling you in for those specific types of calls. So what I always do is I always try and learn all of it. I at least sit in to learn it. And then I make the call. Like, I can't do a triple pirouette. I'm going to back out of the ballet. I can't do wings and pullbacks clean. I'm going to step out of the tap, but I'm going to nail that jazz routine and I'm going to nail that MT routine that they present. Because I'm a mover and I'm a strong mover. Lower level professional dancer. I took dance for many a moons, but my body is what it is. And people don't expect me to dance. That's another thing. Knowing your type. Like, I know that people don't usually call me back to see me dance. If they ask me to dance, it's probably because of Hairspray, to be real honest. Like, and I'm going to give it my all, and I will kick butt doing it while I'm trying, and I will get through it, and it'll be fine. And I have a love for dance that they just don't understand.
That's so true. I think too, when you're talking about like more local theater auditions or civic theater auditions, a lot of theater companies will do what's called a season general. And those too, they'll sometimes have multiple dance combinations. And you can say, I'm great for a mover call, or I'm great for a ballet call. I'm not really great for tap, but I can learn whatever it is. You just have to be honest about your abilities. And if something ends up being more complex than you think it will be, it's okay to back out. No one is judging you for that. Nobody is going to be like, oh, we can't work with that person because the tap combination was more advanced than they thought it would. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Everybody wants you to be great. So the only other thing that we wanted to really cover in this one was, Paul, what did you have there, Paul?
Yeah, I like this one. What to do if you forget something you need? Nope, that's absolutely not it. Such a liar. Such a liar. What to do if you forget a lyric? Use take two. How to work with your pianist if you forget a lyric? That's a great question. Depends on the severity of the forgetfulness, right? If you can go, hey there, you with the stars in your eyes, like if there's like space in something like a ballad, like hey there from the Pajama Game, you can maybe sneak it in and call it back phrasing. Google back phrasing. That's your homework this week. But generally, if it's like off the rails, if it's like, oh, they find each other in the crowded streets and them, you got to stop. You just have to stop. There's no coming back from that. Not no coming back from it. I mean, there's no moving forward from it. There is going back. So at that point, you can literally, are we talking in performance or audition at this point?
This is just auditions, how to get back on track.
Are you kidding me? In an audition, I wore the perfect shirt. In an audition, anything goes. Not anything, but, and don't bring in another 100 people into an audition. This is a terrible example. But if you get to something and it goes off the rails, literally stop and say, I have gone up on my lyric. I'm just going to take it back a second and go to the pianist and say, can we take it from bar 42? And the pianist will say, yes, your sheet music is clearly labeled. I know exactly what you mean. Here's your bell tone. And you come back in. Again, I mean, it's life. We're casting human actors and we want to see your humanity. And like Amber said, you're going to tell us something in how you handle that little blip. You see a little piece of exactly who that person really is. And if you go, or they find each other in the crowded street, oh, no, forget it. I'm sorry, I'll go. Like, what can I do for you at that point? I don't want to, have to say, no, stay. No, please do it again. Keep your composure. Life happens. It's all good. And say, I'm going to take it back. I have seen people restart not once, not twice, but thrice in an audition. And then, like, by the third time, there's usually a moment of like, this is funny. Okay, I'm going to look at the sheet music. Yes, I've got it this time. And there's at that point, you've established a rapport. And it can still go very well. I can't tell you for sure if those people booked those particular gigs, but their messing up or forgetting lyrics was not the make or break in that decision. Anybody can once in a while go up on a lyric. Happens to everybody. Happened to Hugh Jackman in The Boy from Oz. We'll tell that story later.
Oh, that's fun. So the last thing that we wanted to cover real quick in this audition section was, what if you forget something that you need for your audition? The big thing that I would say is don't forget your headshots or your resumes. If you want to keep your hair out of your face, don't forget hair ties. Don't forget the stuff, like run yourself through the scenarios. But what I would say is be honest about it. If you're in the audition room with a bunch of other people and you say, oh my goodness, I need this essential item for my audition. I totally forgot a hair tie. I totally forgot to bring this or this or this. Like, they're asking for this and I don't have it. You can open it up to the room. That's the thing. You'll find that the actors who book are the actors who are kind. So if you get, like, sometimes in an audition, you'll be called back immediately and then you have to like go in and read something. Like, they'll give you what's called a side. We've talked about sides. It's a little scene and they'll want to see it immediately. If you forgot a pencil and you want to mark that up, open it up to the room. Say, hey, does anybody have a pencil or whatever? Like, ask your fellow actors. And then if you need an essential item and you don't have it and nobody else has it either, like you forgot a headshot or a resume, or you didn't bring the proper shoes, whatever it is, just be honest. Just tell them, hey, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. It was so hectic this morning. I had this and this, but I forgot these shoes. If it is essential that you see me do this, I'll do it barefoot. I'll do it in sock feet. I'll do whatever. Like, just be willing to do what you need to do that they're asking for. But if you forget something, be honest about forgetting it. And if it's extra headshots and resumes, say, hey, I just emailed it to you. Like, you can do that. Like, or if you're like with one of your parents, say, hey mom, hey dad, can you email that headshot or resume to these folks, or this form or whatever? Can you help me with this? And they can generally do that for you if your parents are there with you. So I would say be industrious, try to have that stuff available as much as possible. I also would recommend having some of those resources sort of in a portable format. Like, if you forgot your sheet music or something like that, and you're on your way to an audition and you have it on your phone or you have it in a Dropbox or something, you can use those resources. But if you don't have those resources available electronically or portably, you're not going to be able to have that stuff with you. So I think try to think through every scenario so that you have everything that you need before you go. But don't be scared to ask other people for help, and don't be scared to be honest if you don't have something.
Those
Any
are good
other
rules for life too.
Oh,
Don't be afraid to ask for help, and don't be afraid to be honest.
I like that. Any other thoughts on what to do if you forget essential items?
No, I'll save it for the horror story section.
Oh my gosh. So, okay, the other big questions that you guys had were about what to do if something goes wrong in performance. We each have a little bit of like input to bring to this. We're going to start with Miss Katie.
So the first one is what to do if you forget a line, or what to do if your scene partner forgets a line. This has happened countless times on every level of my career, through like elementary, through college, through professional. I promise it happens to everyone. You are a team. If you see an opportunity to help your friend, you do it. Okay, so if you forget a line, first of all, try and think of the line. Second of all, if you can't think of the exact line, but you know exactly what kind of line needs to be said because you know your story, because you're a good actor and you did your homework, say something that makes sense. say something that makes sense that keeps the scene moving to the next person's line, if possible. If you are on stage with someone who forgets their line and you know their line and it makes sense for you to take it, or it makes sense to try and guide someone to that line, or you can get the scene moving. Once again, you're a good actor, you've done your research, you know where the scene is going. You as a team can get it there. You don't have to say the exact line if it's an emergency. I promise. Just say something to keep it moving. Anybody else?
Your fellow actors are there to help you. I saw minor horror story, and it's not mine. I saw a production of Cabaret. There are two characters in the show that are in their golden years, and they were cast age appropriately. And the guy who was playing Herr Schultz did not know what year it was, much less his lines. And at one point, he is supposed to start a scene with Frau Schneider. Doesn't matter. Frau Schneider, yes.
That's correct.
The line is, he steps out and he says, Frau Schneider, are you busy? And she says, no, I'm free as a bird. And he walked out and he said, Frau Schneider. Nothing. And there was a long pause, and Fraulein Schneider, who was just enough years his junior to have probably memorized her and his lines because she knew he was a liability, went, No, I'm just free as a bird here. And he says, then you are not busy. And they got back into it. I had just done a production, which is why I was seeing this production. So knowing the scene was the only reason that I knew just how off the scene had gotten. But if I had not known that, she really saved him on that. And your fellow actors will do that for you.
Yeah, we were doing Fiddler on the Roof here at Rambarn Theater the first time. Miss Molly, you may or may not remember this happening. But there's a scene between two characters, Yenta and Golda. And it's just the two of them negotiating what's happening with Seitel, her oldest daughter. So both of them went up on their lines, and both of them couldn't get a handle on what was happening. And we all knew something was wrong because it was silent on stage and nothing was happening at all. I was the fiddler. I couldn't do anything to help anybody. But we knew that it had gone badly wrong when Golda said, Yenta, are you enjoying your tea? Because they were both drinking tea. So she took it just to fill the silence because they had both gone up and no one could save anybody. So the kid who was playing Motel, who was the next entrance, he wasn't even in the scene. The kid who was playing Motel walked into the scene and got it back on track by, by sort of gently supporting the action that was supposed to have been happening, which was what was the setup for his scene. So he came in and said, good afternoon, Golda. Oh, Yenta is here. So he reacted to the situation as it was and then got everything back on track so that they could continue the scene and it could go forward. But sometimes when you are in a show and you're a team with people, you don't even have to be in the scene at that moment to help. But yeah, Yenta, are you enjoying your tea? Still high alert. And nobody knew that something had gone badly wrong.
That's so funny. Amber, I don't know if I ever told you this story, but during It's a Wonderful Life at Rambarn Theater, I think I was 1 year older, so I was about 10. I played Zuzu, and in the one scene I have, the most important part of the scene is that I have this flower that I got from school, and I can't even remember the entire scene, but it was very important that I had this flower. And on opening night, I forgot the flower, and I remember my line is literally, look at this flower, or something that's very obvious that it's not supposed to have it. So it was with Sam Brown, and I showed him the flower like this, look at this flower, so that the audience only saw this. And then he totally covered for me, and he pretended to pick it up, and he put it under the covers, and he was like, we should keep the flower nice and warm, or keep it cozy in bed. And I still remember it to this day, because I don't know what I would have done scene, whenever we referred to the flower, we like pointed to the bed where the flower was tucked under the covers.
Sam is brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah, be creative. Because the audience is only seeing you from one side. So take advantage of that.
And the audience does not have a copy of the script.
No.
The audience does not know that you're supposed to be able to see the flower. So only you know that only you can tell the audience that someone has messed up.
Oh my gosh.
As long as you refuse to admit that anything has gone wrong, the audience will go with you. Trust me.
Yeah. And sometimes it's not even a case of you forgetting. Sometimes something happens and it's a little bit unplanned. And like Zuzu's Petals, if something happens and it's a little bit unplanned, sometimes it can throw you and make you forget your line or make you forget the trajectory of the scene. Like in Kiss Me, Kate, I had a slap where I slapped I slapped someone, but instead of hitting the nap on my hand, I hit him on the face, like full on, like we connected and he didn't turn quickly enough and it connected and it was so hard. The mic rang and the audience went, oh, like it went, it's like, but he looked at me and stormed off, which was fine. We were so close to the end of the scene. The words that we had to say were not going to be as like climactic as me actually hitting him, but he had like a red mark on his face the rest of the show. Yeah.
Oof.
Talk about storming off. A professor of mine was doing a piece by Moliere. For those of you who are not familiar with French Renaissance theater.
Careful.
It basically, in all of Moliere's plays, the lines are written in rhyming couplets. Everything rhymes, 2 lines of rhyming. It was the style of the time. King Louis XIV liked it. So that's how he made people write plays. And someone went up on their line and you can't, and all my professor knew was he had to exit. He had to storm off. And in that moment, he said, "Before you start to scream and shout, I'll take my leave. I'm heading out," and walked off stage and improvised a rhyming couplet.
Beautiful.
That's great. I love that. So that's, what to do if someone forgets a line. If you forget your line, scene partner forgets a line, just keep moving and get the scene back on track to where it needs to go. And if you can't do it and you can't do it, like try to support other people when they do. Like really be proactive and positive and try to move everything forward. Never have the attitude of, oh, it's someone else's problem or it was their fault, so they look bad. No, everybody looks terrible if things completely derail. So just keep moving forward. So what if something like choreography in a show derails, or what happens like if someone messes up? What do you do?
It just so relates to everything I feel like we already said. Just keep going on. Act like that was supposed to happen. Like that was part of the choreography. And your things are going to go wrong. It's live theater. We can't do it perfectly every single time. And so you can kind of prepare for that in the rehearsal process, because things will go wrong during rehearsal too. So start figuring out how you would handle it if it were a live performance during rehearsal, so that when you get there, you sort of have a game plan. One of my worst dance fails during a live show was when I was in Hello Dolly. I played Minnie Faye, and it was I can't even remember the song, but they're waltzing something about dancing. They're singing about dancing and they're also dancing. And I was doing a soutenu, which is just a little turn. That was not hard. And I was wearing character shoes, and like as I turned, the heels of my character shoes like interlocked, so that when I went to step out of the turn, my feet were stuck, and I literally just I fell completely over, and it was supposed to be like this very graceful ballet, and I was right in the front, and this man in the front row goes, "Oh!" like very loudly, when I fell, and I literally just had to keep going. Like, it was very obvious that I messed up, but there was nothing else I could do, and I got back up and I went right into the dance and I smiled. So I really just feel like that's what you have to do in a situation like that. It really does happen all the time. One time in an audition, I was wearing really high heels, and I was just walking up like to the piano, and I wiped out, and it was in front of a very big name that I was singing for. No, it was in a master class. And she remembered me because I fell, and then I made a joke out of it afterwards, and she thought it was funny. So laugh it off if you're in a situation where you can. If it's a live performance, literally just keep going. I know there's not really a trick, but
That's one of the reasons why people go to live theater instead of the movies. I mean, look, I love going to the movies. I love seeing movies. But when I go to the theater, I'm seeing human beings. I just keep going back to maybe it's the being in quarantine, but we are a species that loves to be around other beings, right? And that's part of the draw of theater, is that anything can happen. And you get to watch a real human moment. If someone wipes out as Minnie Fay or whatever, you get to really see a person dealing with a real thing that is happening.
I have a great story of this, actually, going off of Molly falling. It's literally happened to me multiple times. There's been a time when I was on tour for children's theater where I fell off the stage when we had a blackout, and I was trying to get my kids off stage, and I was in the scene, and we had just this little platform, and it was a decent drop, especially when you face plant off of it, because that's what happened. Stepped straight off, missed the step that we had, went face first, landed on the gym floor like this, and all you heard was a big smack. And then you heard every child in that auditorium go, oh, she fell. And every teacher went, is she okay? And then for the rest of the day, that's all I got to hear about was people came backstage. There was a coach that came backstage to check on me and make sure I was okay. I was like, I'm fine. I just need to keep going with the show because the kids need me right now. And had bummed at my knee, not a big deal. I'm a klutz. Let's just face it. Done and done. But I just kept going. I didn't think twice about it. I got up, I went on, and everybody was so concerned. We had another show that evening. So in between school letting out and the show that evening, I cannot tell you how many teachers stopped me in the hallways to ask me if I was okay. There were even office workers who were not at the performance because they had to stay in the office to man phones, who had heard about it. And I was like, no, I'm fine, I promise. But one that was even bigger, professional level, Chicago, my first Chicago show, it was called Waist Watchers. And I was swinging for 5 different characters along with my own track. I went in last minute for someone that day, and it was a track that I don't normally do the dance on that side of the stage or whatever, and on that step stool, because that's what you're doing. You're working out and dancing aerobics, and there's step stools. And I went to step on the stool, and luckily it happened when it did, because it fits so well into the next part of the song, because we're dying in the next part. We have this breakaway moment where we're just tell me I can't do this anymore. And I twisted my ankle stepping wrong on the stool, and I fell I fell over the stool into the audience. An audience member literally caught me on the way down a little bit. I then crawled to the center of the stage where we're all meeting for the next part of the lyrics to complain about our lives and dying while we're working out. And I crawled my way there, grabbed onto the partner next to me, and she helps me get up, and I did the rest of the show on a bummed ankle. Had another show that day. It was awful, and it's not the only time it happened, friends. I went in for another track, and it happened on a different step stool. So legit, just keep going. If you're injured, figure out a way to do it safely, because I definitely was injured, and I definitely probably shouldn't have kept dancing on it, but I did it anyway, because adrenaline, y'all. Adrenaline. So it happens.
I was doing a show on the Showboat Majestic, which is a boat on water. It's on the Ohio River. Occasionally barges would go by. And when a barge would go by, the boat was here's the dock area, and here's the boat, and here's the river. So when things would go by, the boat does this, And it wouldn't generally go this much like that. But sometimes if we had waves that were big enough from barges, it would twist as it went up and down. It's great. We were doing the pajama game, and we had some choreography in Once a Year Day that was like, this dig trench is my, and then you hit your foot once a year day trench, hit your foot once a year day, and then everybody does a leap up in the air, single turn, and lands. So it was like, boom, 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 right? And we all knew we were in trouble because the barge came by. So the boat was doing this. So it was like this. The guy at center stage, when he jumped up and did the turn and landed. He was like, oh, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was, because the boat was doing this on a fulcrum. Look up your science, kids. The folks on stage left, the boat was not where they expected it to be when they landed, because when they jumped, it was on an upswing and then it went down. And so when they went down, the entire stage left fell, like to the left. And on the stage right people, when they jumped and did the spin, when they came back, it was closer than they thought it was going to be. So they also fell. So my friend Mark is the only person, stage center, lands the jump, and everybody else is like, fell down. We all just like scrambled up and did what we needed to do. But I mean, everybody in the audience thought it was part of it. Like, everybody fell down at the same time.
You were just being wild, being a child.
Oh, that is a reference to the lyrics of that song, kids, since nobody knows that show. It's not a high school favorite.
Reference in this episode.
Yeah, hey there. That's also from that show. Whew, we're digging deep into the musical theater canon this week. So on the theme, just keep going, I think. Paul, I have a story for this next one. I can't wait. I cannot wait.
I mean, I know a few of your stories. I think I might know the one you're talking about.
Probably.
So the next question is, what happens if the song goes wrong, or the track stops, or you forget a lyric again in a solo specifically? I mean, I feel like it's becoming a bit of a theme, but just keep swimming, just keep swimming. So here's the Hugh Jackman story that I referenced earlier. There's a song in The Boy from Oz about the life of Peter Allen, which was a big, not as if Hugh Jackman wasn't a big enough name already. It really elevated him to a certain status in the musical theater community. And he was on stage for pretty much the entire show except for 2 minutes. He had a lot to memorize, a lot of dancing, a lot of songs, and a lot of monologues where he just talks directly to the audience. There's a song called Quiet Please, There's a Lady on Stage that he sings about the time in his life when Judy Garland passed away. Spoiler alert. And he went up on a lyric one night, a lyric that he knew every night. No, you know what it was? It was his voice cracked in a weird spot. So it's a different kind of messing up, and one that you have mostly control over, but not always. And he thought, that was weird. And the next night he goes out there, he gets to that spot, and he was thinking so much about it that he went up on the lyric that time. And once that had happened, it was a thing. All of a sudden there was a mental block. Something happened at that point in his brain every night, and he couldn't get it anymore. And the only way that he said he was able to finally move past it was that moment is not about him. He said everyone's looking at the actress who's playing Judy Garland and remembering their fondest Judy Garland memories. I can't go a single episode of this show without talking about Judy Garland. But as soon as he thought, no one's watching me, even though I'm the one singing, all the pressure was lifted. And the way that I like to interpret that is try to remember something really embarrassing that happened to someone else. It's kind of hard to do.
Short
right?
and Ferda.
So if you can't, at the drop of a hat, remember something really embarrassing that happened to someone else, odds are that thing that you will remember till the rest of your life that was embarrassing that happened to you, most people have forgotten about. Just lift a little bit of that pressure. To specifically to the question, if you go up on a lyric, you got to keep moving. Stop thinking about the lyric that you can't remember if you can't remember it, because the track's not going to stop for you. And get to wherever you can ahead of yourself. There was an instance in a show that I worked on with Miss Amber and Miss Katie, in which an actor forgot a lyric and actually made up a different lyric on the spot. And it wasn't wrong for the moment, but everybody knew on stage, and it was hard for people to hold it together. So I would recommend taking your time. If you can't think of something that works exactly in the moment, don't sweat it. Make sure that when you come back in, you're on the right thing. The other side of that is the way that I prefer to work, but isn't really possible in all situations, and that is with live musicians. If you're with a live I've done a lot of shows where I was the only musician. I was playing piano for the show and it was just me. In that situation, it's just like an audition. I can do whatever you want to get. You start singing. If you mess up, and I will just sort of tread water musically and sit in one place and wait to figure out where you want to come back in. And when I hear where you are, I will jump to that place. The musicians will follow you. That is their job. If I'm conducting a full orchestra, it's harder, but not impossible. So that's my suggestion. Work with live musicians as much as possible. Employ live musicians, not just to employ my friends, but because that experience is thrilling and a wonderful way to make theater and music. And then trust those people. Miss Amber, you had a story?
Yeah, Molly, I don't know if you remember this.
Oh boy.
But we were doing Goodnight My Someone. It was like mid-run of Music Man. So Molly is going ding 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 ding
And I
ding
actually
ding
learned
ding
the piano song.
ding.
I have to say, I was so proud of myself.
It was perfect. So Molly continues to play, and we had live musicians to support what was happening. Well, in one of the scenes previous, a lot of the women come out and they have these big hats on that have a ton of feathers. And I was also the costumer for this show, so I take full accountability for all of this. Some of the feathers, because of the nature of feathers, weren't really glued down very well. So I crossed down right after like watching Molly be the cutest human ever and doing the little piano solo. I crossed down right to start singing, and I get to the stage right downstage side, right where those ladies with all the feathers just were on the second phrase. So I walk downstage and go, "Good night, my someone, good night, my love, sleep tight, my someone, sleep tight, my love." And this next note is the highest note in the phrase. So I took a big old breath and a feather went in my mouth and like stuck to the back of my throat. And I didn't want to cough because this is the first big song that I sang in the show. And I knew that I had to sing a lot of other music, some of it easy, some of it not. So I didn't want to cough and like have the risk of not being able to sing later in the show. So I stopped, but my instincts, I was chill, and my instincts were to tell the audience just to calm down and to hold the pit who is up in in the orchestra loft. So I breathe in and I did this. Sleep tight, my soul. Like I just told everyone, I just need a second, everybody. Hold on. And then I like nodded everybody back in. And I was like, it was at a point where I was comfortable enough that I wasn't even really aware that I did it. But my friend Lance Mullins, Molly, if you remember him.
Lance? Yeah.
He was the spot op, and he came back down. He's like, "Are you aware of what you just did?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I messed up." And he was like, No, you literally told the audience, like you directed them to like, hold on, everybody, I'm in charge here. But yeah, no, I did this and then went on.
I never knew. I was just looking at the piano and
Yeah, one time during Fiddler, this last time we did it, the track stopped during Anatevka completely. And what did we do, Miss Katie?
Well, if you were like us in Legally Blonde, you kept going.
That's right. Just keep
We
singing.
have a lot of track issues sometimes.
It happens everywhere. So yeah, just keep singing. And if they can't get it back, just sell it a cappella.
Yeah, Heidi and I had to do Chiquitita partially a cappella one night.
During Mamma Mia.
Because the track messed up or whatever. And like, actually, I think, no, it wasn't that we kept going. Well, we attempted to. And then who was stage managing that? Austin. Yeah, was a stage managing, called hold and reset the track and told the audience we'd be starting back up. And then we restarted the track, and Heidi and I, we literally sat on stage with you underneath of the cover and just like sat there looking like we're just staying frozen on stage kind of situation, waiting for the music to decide what it's going to do.
Luckily, in that scene, all three of us in that scene basically weren't acting at all. We just were being ourselves and saying the words that were on the page.
We're friends.
We like each other. So that was real easy. It wasn't in the middle of some terribly dramatic thing. But yes, oh my gosh, I completely forgot about that. Probably because I was covered up with a blanket.
Yeah. You didn't have to sing. So.
I just took a little nap.
Yeah. I think you started giggling though underneath the cover. Like I remember you shaking under the cover. You're like, haha, you guys have to deal with this and I'll just stay under here.
In 2017, I think I had to go on for the last performance of Plain and Fancy. And there was a prop that didn't get set because I didn't know it was my job to set it. But it was during a scene where I was supposed to conceal somebody. Like I was supposed to conceal someone and like make sure that they were hidden from another person walking into the scene. And the thing that I was supposed to conceal them behind wasn't on stage. So I laid them down on a bed. I like put a cover on top of them and then sat on top of them. And then I knew that the person walking into the scene had no hope, because they were expecting the person to be concealed the same way they had been concealed for 65 performances. And when they walked into the scene, it was just the director of the show sitting on top of the person on a big pile of blankets. Sorry about your life.
Gotta do what you gotta do.
There is a little bit of fun to be had in that. We said earlier that your fellow actors are going to be there to help you, and also you never actively try to break someone on stage. That is not nice. I know people who do it, but it's not nice. Don't do it. But if something goes wrong, it is frequently fun to see how certain people will react, knowing that you know something that they don't as they're walking into it.
Sorry.
Gotta keep. My godmother was a stage manager. She actually, I think, still holds the record for the youngest equity stage manager in history.
6 months.
I think she was 6 months shy of 19 when she got her card.
Oh wow.
Yeah. But she said, I mean, she worked all over the place with all kinds of people, and so at a certain point she was like, I started looking forward to things going wrong, because that's when you really have to like be alert and like really be on it. But again, many years in the theater, and you know, I am not myself at that point. I am still happy with a nice boring show that goes according to plan.
True words. I love it. So I wanted to talk a little bit about like, what if the tech goes wrong? Like, what if something terrible happens? I remember once I was watching a show, and I don't remember what show it was, but it had a louvered door, like a kitchen door that like swung back and forward. It was set in a little diner. and the louvered door fell off. So there was a guy in the show who was supposed to be playing a maintenance guy. And he was like, oh, sorry about that, everybody. I'll just go get the toolkit. He didn't know anything. He didn't know how to fix the louvered door. He was an actor. So he went off stage and was like on the headset, like, what do I do? And they're like, we'll send somebody back. So they put one of the tech crew people who knew how to fix the door into a coverall and like made it look like it was his assistant. And he came out and they fixed the door together during the scene. So then anytime the maintenance guy character had to be in the scene, he was like, oh yeah, I have something to say about that. Where's my patty melt? Like they just did it and just fixed the problem. So if you can fix the problem and you know that you can keep the show going and keep it moving forward, do it. Like it makes for some thrilling dynamic theater to like watch that stuff happen. But sometimes you can, sometimes you can't.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing we dealt with was like microphone issues. I mean, so many times we'd have to figure out how to swap someone out on the spot kind of situation. Legally Blonde, I remember like having to sneak behind a set piece, like a big one. And when RL came off stage to do a quick change, I was also switching her mic out and getting her taped up in time to get her back on stage in like 5 seconds. It was insane.
Teamwork.
And somehow we manage every time. It's so weird.
I feel like oh, sorry, Paul. You can go.
No, you.
Okay. One of my biggest pet peeves ever is when like someone, I feel like it happens in dance numbers if everyone's wearing a hat or something and then a hat falls off or someone drops a hat and like a small prop is dropped that isn't that big of a deal. But then I hate it when the actors spend like the next 3 scenes with that prop on the floor. Like it, just pick it up. Even if you're not supposed to, pick it up and just kind of toss it off stage because that's what a normal person would do anyway. So if you're in a scene, just pick it up. Like it's okay. For me, when I'm in the audience, I am distracted from your performance because I'm just looking at that object and like wondering why no one is picking it up. So that's so small, but yeah.
So to that point, two quick stories. The first one is, this is sort of a theater legend. It's not my story, but I'll impart it here to you use because it's a great lesson. And that was an older, more experienced actor and a younger actor were in a show together, and the younger actor was much more brazen. I'm not using words correctly today.
Attention seeking.
Okay, yes, stealing the focus, not supporting his scene partner, and doing what's called upstaging, or basically taking the focus away from the other person. And the actor finally warned him and said, if you don't stop that, one of these days I'm going to upstage you when I'm not even in the scene. And the actor shrugged it off. Yeah, sure, whatever. And he kept doing it. And the next night, the actor was leaving a scene. He had a glass in his hand and he put it down on the table like that. And the rest of the scene, no one in the audience could watch the younger actor. All they could do was watch in horror what's going to happen with that glass. So first of all, support your scene partners, or they'll leave a glass half off a table. The second thing, in terms of like acknowledging, use it. Again, humans, reality. We love seeing when something, acknowledging that something goes wrong. I was just watching The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel last night, and there was this wedding scene and everyone was dancing, and it was a big Jewish wedding. Everyone was wearing yarmulkes, and this guy does this big dance move and his yarmulke fell off halfway through, but it was in the middle of a giant long tracking shot that they could not stop, and they kept going, and he literally used it in his dance. He picked it up and like made this face about it, and it was so real. I loved it.
That's so smart. Yeah, just use it. Use the stuff. I think that too, if something falls, pick it up. If there is something in the reality of the scene, do it. Like there are some things that can go wrong or could go wrong that are insignificant. If you can fix the problem, fix the problem. And I think that's kind of in general with theater. Like, if you can help fix the problem, do it. Like, be that go-getter problem solver. Even as like an educational theater student or in civic theater, or even in your professional work, if you guys are moving toward that level at camp, if there's something going on and you can help solve that problem, you know, step right up and do it. I think that's great. But things go wrong, particularly with tech elements, all of the time. There's a lot of moving parts in a show. So lights can go weird, like sound can go weird, your sets can go crazy, costumes. Like, the thing to remember about costumes is if somebody has a problem with their costume and you can help them, help them. And like, if like something is unzipped, zip it up. If you can't zip it up, like, just support people in whatever way that you can, so that, like, again, the audience can only see you from one side. If there is a dress and that dress is ripped, it's only ripped on one side. So cover it up and like keep going on with the show. It's about presenting a reality, not being a reality. So I think that's like generally good stuff to remember. I'm sure we all have 1,000 horror stories about like those things going wrong. That's a supplemental episode to today's episode. The only other thing that we had on the docket for today was just sort of a little roundtable of some of our horror stories. I feel like we've sort of integrated that into today's table talk. I don't have any like specific stories that I wanted to tell you guys about audition horror stories or performance horror stories. It all really, for me, distills down to sometimes things have gone wrong and sometimes I've dealt with them well and sometimes I haven't. And I wouldn't trade any of the things that went wrong for anything. They either taught me something, or they were great fun, or they gave me an experience that was unforgettable with my fellow artists. And that's what we do this for. So anything to add in conclusion, folks?
I just want to share my favorite story of performance wrong happening. I was in Legally Blonde. I was playing Paulette. It just so happened to be the day my campers were there to see the show, which worked out perfectly because something went wrong. And then I was able to talk about how you just keep going for your show the next day, because it was like the day before they do their final dress rehearsal. And my contact, we were in the bend and snap, and it was right before I actually start singing like hardcore. And my contact decides to pop out of my eyeball on stage. And luckily it happened right when I'm supposed to like look to one side of the group that are around me, and then I'm supposed to look to the other side of the group around me. This time I looked to the group beside me, and then I did a full circle. And while I was doing my full circle singing, I grabbed the contact, I popped it in my mouth with my back to the audience, and I did the rest of the number with my contact in my mouth. Ran off stage real fast after the song ended, like scene's over, popped it in my eyeball real fast, grabbed my prop, went out to the audience to do my next entrance, where I call Ellen. I'm like, oh, we're at the emergency room and I'm falling in love with him. And yeah, one of my favorite things ever to happen to me on stage. Nobody knew. Girls on stage just thought it was weird that I turned around, but nobody knew.
I love that.
So fun. I have one other really quick story I wanted to share for the end. So last summer I was in the 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee. If you don't know the show, it's super fun. I played Logan fourth in group and year. It was my favorite role I've ever played. If you don't know the show, there's actually some improv elements because they have 4 members from the audience come up and be in the spelling bee. So we always picked the people before the show and they knew who they were going to be and that sort of thing. And so we got to the performance, and the guy playing the vice principal, Pant, she was like, all right, and like our next spelling bee participant is Jim Miller. And there were 2 Jim Millers in the audience, one of them who knew he was going to be picked, but the other one just thought, oh, I guess I'm going to be in the show. So then 2 people come up on the stage, and this was in performance, so we were like, oh. so I think the guy playing Panch was like, sir, what's your name? And he was like, Jim Miller. And then he went to the other guy, oh, well, what's your name? He was like, Jim Miller. And so then we were all trying to figure out how we were going to make this work, because there were only 4 times in the show that somebody was called on, and now we had 5 volunteers on the stage, and we didn't want to send someone back down. So we were all like, all the kids, the kids who we were playing on the bleachers, we started whispering back and forth, and we were like, we're going to add one more goodbye song, but made it look like we were just kids at a spelling bee talking about something. And we had this full plan. that we were going to repeat one of the goodbye songs that we sing when someone is eliminated, and we had no idea what to do. But then instead, the guy playing Panch, when he called up Jim Miller, he said, "May I have the Jim Miller twins step forward," and made up this entire story about how they were twins separated at birth, and they were meeting here at the spelling bee for the first time in their entire lives. And he eliminated them both at the same time so that we got back on track with the number of audience participants we were supposed to have. It was the craziest situation, and like everyone was on the stage, so we couldn't leave and talk about like how we were going to do this. But that's my favorite thing that's ever happened.
Brilliant. I love that so much.
That's so smart. I love it. Yeah, things going wrong. It's an opportunity for you to be awesome. Yep. Whew. All right. So we haven't determined next week's topic for episode 6 of Goshen Theater Drama Club Table Talks. If you guys have ideas for what you would like to see us chat about. I think this rounds out our audition series. We've covered everything from your school auditions, civic theater, professional auditions, what you need in your performer's toolkit, and now like strategies for what to do if things go wrong. So we're exiting out of our audition series. And some of my thoughts, maybe I thought we could do something about maybe some lessons on our experiences with particular types of shows, like Golden Age musicals, what characterizes a Golden Age musical, what kind of skills you need for those sorts of things. So perhaps something like that. I thought we could also talk about like our personal experiences within the business. There's all sorts of different topics and things that we could hit. Our panel here, the ladies and Paul Rigano and the Quarantine Queens, we'll definitely discuss some ideas, but we'd love to hear some feedback from you guys. And as always, if you have any questions about things that we covered today, please send them. And if you have horror stories about things that have gone wrong when you've given a speech, sung a solo, if you forgot the words to the national anthem, everybody's done that at least once, send us those stories and maybe we'll share them in next week's episode. But for now, we're just going to say goodbye to all of you. Thank you for tuning in. And we hope you guys are enjoying Goshen Theater Drama Club Table Talks. This concludes episode 5, The Actor's Nightmare. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, guys.